Hey everybody, it's Free to Play Bust. Excuse me, getting ready to start up expedition number 80. Uh, it's the 25th. I was expecting the full spoiler to be out by now, so I was really just wanting to continue through the initial impressions until the set came out. But you know, wish in one hand, shit in the other. So we're back to actually playing the game, which I have no complaints about. I still enjoy these expeditions up to number 80. Be cool to see him getting shaken up though. So let's take a look here. I think objectively, this Zed pack is the strongest pool out of these three. But the Zed pack is also garbage. Sun Seeds is borderline unplayable. Navori Highwayman is also a trash unit. So here we're really just taking this pile for the Zed aspect, and then to the opposite end of the spectrum here, objectively, these three cards within Tryndamere are the best set of three within this set. But I'm just not a real huge fan of drafting Tryndamere. My big issue with Tryndamere is that he doesn't do anything unique. With Zed, we get ephemeral attacks and ultra aggressive attacks. We can play cards on Zed and make big attacks. He does interesting and unique things. Draven, statted well, great on the offense. He adds the spinning axes to your hand that you can use to discard somewhere else or use them how you're supposed to win a combat. And then what's Tryndamere do? He's just a big unit. So he doesn't excite me in that sense because like what if we had say like an Anivia here and then we just picked up Alpha Wildclaw. Alpha Wildclaw is a little bit worse than Tryndamere, but they're close enough to being the same unit that it makes me not like having Tryndamere since he just doesn't add a whole lot to the table. But I mean, this is a pretty reasonable suit up pack, and so we're actually just going to be taking the one here in the middle, the Scrapheap Draven. I think this is just an all-around pretty good aggressive pack. Kind of leads us towards a lot of other decks that we could get into. Like if we see an Elise, we're cool with that. If we see like a Nox and Might Draven, we're fine with that. If we see a Scrapheap Jinx, that's fine as well. This just opens us up to a lot of different decks that we could be playing. Okay, let's take a look. I'm kind of initially drawn to this Discipline Zed, knowing that the Kinku Wayfinder is a card, but I haven't really had much success with the Kinku Wayfinder in Expedition, as much as I'd love to say that I have. I've drafted him a few times and just not really had much success. But this is a pretty reasonable set of cards over here. This is also a pretty... Heimerdinger is just one of the best champions in the game, but I'm not a real huge fan of pairing Heimerdinger with Noxus. Noxus just doesn't have a real high volume of quality spells. Noxus is more centered around having good units, and so it's a bit awkward. This Anivia is... it's whatever, I guess you could say. I think Tall Tales is just borderline unplayable. Cloning Program in this most recent pack had the Yeti's theme added to it, so it's not just solely focused on the Elnix, but I don't really like drafting Cloning Program unless we're either already in Ezreal, so if we take an Ezreal first, then Cloning Program is a great pickup, or if there's already a troop of Elnix within this opening pack, because you're in such a bad spot if we get to the end of the draft and we've only seen like 3 or 4 Elnix. You're really looking to have 6, 7, 8 Elnix in your deck to really capitalize on the troops. So we're just going to go aggressive here with this Zed and see where it takes us. We can the Draven set isn't as ultra aggressive as we would like it to be, but it should play out okay here. Let's see. We can immediately ignore this first one. Sun Seed is just garbage. Shadow Shift is okay, but I don't think it plays spectacularly in this kind of deck. We don't really have the high value units that I think that Shadow Shift plays particularly well with. Like, right, we're never really wanting to be like Shadow Shifting Legion Rear Guards. We're really looking to be Shadow Shifting, either like champions or say something like a Green Glade duo that's about to get blocked. I'm not a huge fan of just trying to bounce Legion Saboteurs and these just kind of cheap units. But to continue on, Brothers Bond should play exceptionally well in this kind of deck we're getting together here. Just looks to be pretty ultra aggressive and very unit heavy. Brothers Bond plays pretty well when you're able to go wide. Draven's biggest fan is a garbage unit though. And then these over here are okay, but I don't like the Lifeblade unless we're playing with the +3/+3 Pegasus. So let's take this Scrapheap Draven back here and see what keeps coming at us. Okay, this is certainly not a solitary monk deck. I'm leaning towards this Arachnophilia. We could probably make Arachnoid Sentry work, and again, Brothers Bond should be pretty good in our heavy aggression deck here. Thermogenic Beam is something that we would like to have, but the Scrap Dash assembly doesn't work towards anything that we're trying to do. So we'll just continue on with our aggression with this Brothers Bond. Okay, looks like we're gonna have all the Brothers Bonds. But again, we would like to have the Trifarian, but this Draven's biggest fan is just the absolute worst one drop in the game. But not in the game, but in this deck pool that we'll be trying to put together. We'd much rather have something even like Navori Blade Scout without recall combos. But these combat tricks down here are extremely good. We'll be okay with taking these. Okay. The decisions begin. I'm leaning on this Shunpo here. The Shunpo should turn out to be reasonable in our deck. Just these ultra-aggressive decks need something to close out the game, and Shunpo does it pretty well. Legion Saboteur is a pretty reasonable one-drop, so I think I'm okay with these. We don't want this Barrier card or the Lifeblade. We'd be okay with Yone. I'm not a real huge fan of cards like Yone and Arachnoid Sentry, but they do tend to play out okay in these decks. Say it's like turn 5 and we play a 2-drop and then our opponent spends their full 5 mana on a unit, then we can typically just dome it with a Sentry. That's where I kind of think these cards like Sentry and Yone tend to turn out the best, but I think one Shunpo will be reasonable. I would rather have the thing that stuns a unit and gives your units +2 attack, but we'll see what we can do with Shunpo here. Okay, here's a stack of 1-drops. I'll be glad to take these. We don't really need any more Brothers Bonds. The Sentry's pretty mediocre. More Lifeblades that we just don't want. Usari would be fine here, but these 2 1-drops are just more along the lines of what we're looking for. Okay, another interesting set. I have an extremely hard time passing Legion Rearguards. If you a follower of the free-to-play bust, I do really love me a Legion Rearguard, because with these decks we're really just trying to spend 6 mana on units across the first 3 turns, and these extremely good on the first turn, and they really help you fill in your curve in the early game. With something that certainly trades with 2 and 3 and some 4-drops, just ultra mana efficient. But there is Kato, which this is kind of tough in that we don't actually have any interaction right now. We just have Brothers Bonds and Elixir of Wraths, and so Whirling Death is kind of an interesting pickup. But Kato is just so extremely powerful. We're much more likely to see Whirling Deaths as the draft goes on, but we probably won't see any more Katos. And he just got a boost, which I think he did not need. I think that was a constructed boost that's getting carried over into Expedition. But I think we're just going to take him since he's so ultra powerful in this deck, and we probably won't see this effect again. Whereas we'll likely see at least one more Whirling Death or Noxan Guillotine or something. We'll find some more of this kind of mid-rangey removal, even though this does kind of have a turret in Draven's biggest fan. Okay. I'm leaning on this pack down here. We don't have any real great combos for Vision. We don't have any of the discard cards. The discard cards all exist in Piltover. We would be okay with more Saboteurs. This is a good kind of middling pack, but this kind of fills in 2 things that we really need right now. We always want to have 1 Might in our deck. The way these games tend to pan out frequently is, we'll get our opponent down to like 6. They'll put a 1/1 in front of whatever our big unit is. Say they block Kato with a 1/1, and then we just finish off our opponent with Might. And our top end is kind of lacking right now, so I'm not a huge fan of the Shield Breaker, but he's kind of the the best of the top end that we're kind of okay with having in our deck. Okay. These are all awkward because we don't want any of these. Could be kind of okay with Spirit's Refuge, but the lifesteal just shouldn't be relevant in this expedition, so it's just kind of an expensive prismatic barrier. And we don't have too many units that we're super interested in trying to save in combat. We would like to keep Draven and Zed around, but they're already pretty good at protecting themselves with quick attack, and then that is kind of taken care of with Brothers Bond. And so don't want Health Potion or Snapper. So I'm going to take this Hopeful and Shunpo. We really don't want two Shunpos in our deck. We would like to trade this out at some point, but the Hopeful is pretty good. We don't have any 2-drops at this point, and we have this giant stack of 1-drops to really boost it on the second turn. Okay. Oh man, I'd love to have all these. It hurts so much when these packs come up where you just want all 6 cards. The Decisive Maneuvers is the card I was talking about wanting earlier, but we have 2 Shunpos. We don't really want to stack up on this type of effect too much. Legion Drummer is an extremely good unit, but when we're having 2 playables on both sides, we can probably just leave this for something our deck needs more. I'm going to take this crowd favorite and Legion Saboteur. This is just kind of the premier top end for our deck. The Saboteur is extremely good as well. We already have a lot of early game combat tricks and a lot of 1-drops, so these aren't as ultra important to pick up. We already have 1 Elixir of Wrath, 3 Brothers Bonds, and then 2, 4, 7, 8 1-drops, so we're doing pretty okay right there. Okay. We're finally going to get our interaction. It's going to be whether or not we want Will of Ionia, Whirling Death, or Whirling Death. I'm not super big on Crimson Aristocrat in this kind of deck. I prefer this to be in either a Battle Scars deck to where it can get the value, using it on a Crimson, whatever the 3-drop Crimson is, or oh, sorry, I had to sneeze. Or if you're able to use it, say, on like an elusive or a big like Alpha Wildclaw type unit. We just don't really have the units that play well with this. So it's going to be, do we want this Saboteur, Whirling Death, or Blade Scout? Will of Ionia? I think I'm just going to take this Whirling Death. I think the Saboteur will play a little bit more strongly in our deck than this Blade Scout will. It's not big combos, but we do have 2 Shunpos in here. It'll just play much better than this little guy that guarantees his 2 damage gets in. Okay, interesting set. Blade's Edge is going to be super interesting when these new cards come out. If you haven't been following the spoilers as they come out, there's a lot of cards that have to deal with dealing that have effects for the number of times you've dealt damage to your opponent or the number of times you've hit the opponent's nexus. And I think Blade's Edge it's right on the border of being pretty good now. Just as kind of a way to finish off a combat. If we look at a lot of combats, we won that combat with Elixir of Wrath. A whole large pile of those combats we would also just win with Blade's Edge. And I think the additional utility this gets out of the cards that are like, there's even an entire new keyword, Plunder, that does something if you've dealt damage to your opponent this turn. I think that's what Plunder does. Yeah, I just had to look it up. Plunder activates if you've dealt damage to the opponent's nexus this turn. And so, you don't really want to be spending your time throwing Blade's Edges at your opponent's face. But if that's going to, activate, 2 of your Plunder cards, that could be interesting. And pulling up their Twitter, I just love that they post Fizz. So we'll have to take a look at what's going on with Fizz later in the day today. He's in the new faction Bilgewater. So interesting stuff. I was kind of waiting on Riot to post more things, and it got to about the time it is now. It's about noon where I'm at, and they still hadn't posted anything. And so I was like, well, let's actually play the game. Playing the game's not that bad. And then they posted it while we were running through here. But at any rate, what do we want to do here? I'm getting real interested in these Trifarian Hopefuls since we just have so many 1-drops. We typically have at least one game in the run to where we play a Hopeful or a 5/1 Challenger, and our opponent has no answer. Then we just dome them for like 7 on the second turn. You always win those games, so I'm pretty happy to be picking up these Hopefuls in this kind of deck. We don't have combos with Legion Drummer, but we're really hurting for 2-drops, and she is one of the stronger 2-drops, so I'm okay with taking this. Okay, interesting things. Finally, we haven't taken any Ionia, but it's finally some Ionia cards I can get behind. I don't really want more Brothers Bonds. I think 3 is probably too many, but okay. I think 2 is kind of the number we're really looking for, but I don't really want 4 of these. We are kind of interested in the crowd favorite, but this stack of cards here is pretty good. Noxus doesn't have any way to protect units' health, like all of the Noxus combat tricks, Elixir of Wrath, Brothers Bond, Might, they all give plus attack, but we don't have any way to get defense, and Twin Disciplines really helps in that regard. And Jeweled Protector is just a great unit. Getting 14 stats for 5 mana is pretty powerful, even if we're just putting our stats onto a Legion Rearguard or a Saboteur or something. That unit is now a monster. And so I'm pretty okay with taking this, even though we did get 1 Whirling Death, so we are still lacking with ways to kind of interact with our opponent, but I think this pack here is just too powerful to let go. Okay, interesting. I think I'm okay with getting rid of the Sentry for the Rearguard. We do have this just giant-ass pile of 1-drops though, so it's not super important to pick these up, but this is just kind of like the premier 1-drop. And I'd kind of like to keep this top end. We don't have very much top end whatsoever. We just have, what is this, three 5s, and then crowd favorite kind of plays like a 5 or a 6 because he's always so big. So I'm not really wanting to get rid of either of these. So I think I am going to swap out this Sentry for the Rearguard though. I'm just such a huge fan of this unit. What up, Bobo? Did you get the set? I've been wanting to draft this Crimson Guard or whatever the hell this is called, but we got in like 5 or 6 or 7 runs and just never saw it. So this is a kind of interesting hand. We're already starting with the Hopeful, and so I definitely want to keep a 1-drop. I'm not real excited about Draven's biggest fan, but it is going to guarantee that we get a Draven on 3, and we're on the odd attack token, so we'll be able to attack with that Draven. I'm okay with getting rid of Legion Rearguard. He does not play well in our deck, or this guy, the Greenglade Elder. It's just, whenever we play it, we just have so few opportunities to have, ooh, that worked out well, to actually boost units in our hand. It tends to play a lot better with, like elusives. But here, we actually drew a Zed, so we don't need to play the Draven's biggest fan to activate our Hopeful, and we're okay with just getting a Rearguard on board. Okay, so we have the option to play 2 1s or our 2. I'm kind of leaning towards playing these 2 1s. He can get a value block with his War Chefs, but then he's not going to have good blocks anywhere else. And so I'm not real happy about just playing this Hopeful and having him block it with War Chefs. So
reporting in. Batter him. No one goes hungry.
Sure. And we're going to draw Draven next turn, but I don't really want to play Draven. I think we just want to play Zed. Much more aggressive choice here. We do have a pretty good open, but realistically he's probably just going to play a 3-3 for 3 here, and we can deal with that. So 3 is fine.
I'm ready.
Okay, so he's just taking the trade on our good block. He might have some kind of combat trick here for Zed, which is unfortunate. But okay, good deal. Commanding position now. Expecting to get a lot of value out of this Twin Disciplines. This curve lines up pretty well with getting value out of this. Now we can just play these 2 5-drops. That's not what he needs to be doing at this point. This is a really strong open attack we're going to have. Okay, let's get to booming. Oh, and a Might? Okay. I'm going to put the Zed way down here on the end since he's a unit he's going to want to block. Okay. Okay. Boomed him. Oh man, my chests are fucked. I haven't had much time to actually play this week, and so I forgot. This might be the first set of games I've gotten to play since the reset happened. I've been busy with work and trying to focus on the initial impression series, and so I just haven't been playing too much. But at any rate, let's see what we have here. I'm not too interested in the Zed pack. I would be okay with taking more Zeds. We're not a deck that's really champion centric, so we're probably just going to take either the champion pack that has the best set of cards in it. So even if this was a really good Katarina pack, I would be okay with taking Katarina. I would kind of prefer to stack up on these Dravens since he flips into Whirling Death, and we don't really have a lot of ways to interact with our opponents. So I will place a little bit higher value on Draven than any of these other champions, but this isn't a deck where I necessarily feel like I have to have 3 Dravens. That's typically the way I talk about drafting quite a bit, is we're really looking to have 3 of the same champion and then one is kind of a support champion. But this is a deck to where it doesn't feel ultra important. We aren't doing Draven things, we aren't doing Zed things, we're just doing aggressive 1-drop things. And so here I'm pretty okay with this. The Reckless Trifarian's value goes down quite a bit in these decks since we would really be preferring to play Draven or Zed on 3, and then we're going to have a big stack of 3-drops since we'll have some combination of 4 Dravens and Zeds. But all in all, he's still a pretty powerful unit that we're happy to have. Even if, kind of like on that last game where we played 2 Hopefuls on the 4th turn, if our 4th turn is playing a Reckless Trifarian and a Legion Saboteur, that's still pretty powerful. And we do want a Savage Reckoner in our deck. This is a piece of top end I don't like leaving without. We did pass on 1 to hang on to our Jolt Protector, so I'm pretty glad to see 1 make an appearance here. These other cards are fine. Sparring Students are okay, but our 1-drops are fine. As I mentioned, Greenglade Elder does not play well in this deck. Like if we looked at that previous game, we could have maybe gotten 2 units with our Greenglade Elder. That's just not enough value. And these Katarina cards are okay. As you saw, the Hopeful is extremely good, but this Draven set just feels a little bit more powerful. Okay, Articuno Darius. So interesting. We need to find some more 1-drops. I'm okay with keeping Zed and Sparring Student, since this is kind of one of the combos with Zed. Is we'll play the Sparring Student on 1, play Zed on 3. When Zed attacks, he makes an additional unit to make the Sparring Student a little better. So I'm cool with getting rid of both of these Dravens to look for more 1-drops. Nailed it. Or pretty much any 2. Oh, not you. You want the rear guard here.
Reporting in. Okay, ready.
We will have the option is to either play Legion Drummer or 2 1-drops. We're probably just going to play 2 1-drops. See what all Zamel does here. Interesting. I don't want to just pass, so let's get the rear guard on first, see if he actually attacks. If he hooks this Snow Hare, I'm actually pretty okay with bringing down his unit. This isn't like a super high value Sparring Student. This will really limit his blockers. I'm cool with just, pay 1 mana, kill your dude is fine with me.
I am the blade in the darkness.
Okay. It's a little unfortunate, but not the end of the world.
I'll do better this time.
Okay. big old Reckoner should hopefully be closing out this game. Then we should be trying to open attack next turn. Sure, that's not not what he needs to be doing here. Then the other option we do have here is to, because we're going to want to open attack on this guy, we're just going to go ahead and take this damage. But I think I'm going to go ahead and Brothers Bond my Zed so that when he makes a copy, the copy's already going to be big. And then we're going to be repping like 10, 16, 18 damage next turn, which is probably enough to just kill him. You really need to 1-drop here. Okay, cool.
They follow the wrong master.
So, I mean, we don't always win here. He has a harsh winds or something. That's fine, but he's still extremely far behind. Spending 5 mana to prevent 5 damage isn't how you win the game here. So, pretty good start for us.
The world awaits. Forward.
Okay, I'd be cool with playing Draven, then we'll just get another open attack on him.
I need just a moment.
That's gonna hook Zed 100%. This.
It's Draven time.
I keep step with the heartbeat of
Sure.
Noxus.
I'm familiar with this game plan. This is one of the decks I advocate a lot. Is getting these things going.
Face me. Remember why we fight.
Cut him down.
Okay. So these blocks here are kind of scary because if he has, say, like a Brittle Steel, we're going to lose an attacker for next turn. It's pretty hard for him to kill us here. He has to have 2 Elixir of Wraths, and so I'm just going to take this damage. We don't have any value blocks we can be making on these units. Let's go ahead and get Sparring Student down since he only has 1 health. Okay, we should be able to kill him through like a Harsh Winds with the Spinning Axe. So this should be a game ender here.
Let's do this. Okay, ready.
Okay. Good game, friend. Let's see, don't want Sown Seeds. I could convince myself to trade out this rearguard for a Might, but I think we have enough combat tricks. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6 is enough. I'm okay with that. Don't want this. Stand United doesn't really play well in this deck, so we can skip this one. I guess on that game, now that I think about it, I didn't have to Brothers Bond on his turn since it's a burst. I could have Brothers Bond on our turn, and then had an extra unit out there. I guess that was kind of turdy, but the idea is there. So we definitely wanted to be playing Brothers Bond before we attacked, so that the Zed Shadow was getting the boost. Good old Yasuo. Curious to see. I think my kind of rating on Yasuo is he's a pretty bad champion. Here, we can get rid of all these. We need 1-drops. He's not a bad champion. He's a bad champion now because there just aren't enough quality stun cards to really get him flipped and be doing good Yasuo things. So I'm curious for the sake of Yasuo to see what comes out in the new set. We've already seen 1 stun card. It costs 4, stuns a unit at fast speed, and then it
No one's the wiser.
puts a 3/2 into play for 4 mana. So things like that. It seems a little overcosted for what it does, but you know, like when your early game like stun choices are all garbage, and you're really kind of counting on like the 5-cost Minotaur. Zed is just not, or Zed, Yasuo is just not exciting in the current set, but I think he will improve in the next one with the addition of new stuns. Let's see how awkward this gets. We're probably just going to have to trade our Saboteur for something. It sucks to have to trade with an Inspiring Mentor onto this. And so, oh, okay, he's not even boosted. Let's get in there, friends. But this is not an opening our deck wants to be seeing. We're almost certainly going to get 2-for-1 by these Highwaymen.
I'm trying to feed my family.
Okay. Maybe we're not.
We've been through a lot.
Have to see how we can build up a good Shunpo here.
There's always a way
Sure.
out.
Do not fear the shrouded path.
They'll never see me
Sure.
coming. Quietly now.
Okay. Then we're gonna kind of correct what we did last game. Well, we can just play both Saboteurs. They trade with his units. I think I'm okay with this.
My orders.
Sure.
Explosives primed.
So it's like, now do we want to hide the fact that we have Brothers Bond? Or do we want to go ahead and juice up one of these units? Man, that sucks. Oh, I should have known he had that. That's fine. Let's wait and do it mid-combat.
Suffer long.
This'll shake 'em.
We go as one.
I mean, that's going to happen. We're going to lose our drummer, and we'll probably lose 2 of these, but then we can still we're definitely quick striking Zed, or Brothers Bonding Zed. Probably boost up the Saboteur as well, since it won't be blocked.
Move, go.
Okay. To 7? Okay. Then we might be able to Shunpo kill him on his turn. But we're definitely going to Shunpo on his turn, even if it's just to attack with Zed. But we should be getting in with everything. Oh, gross. It's like the worst card he could have played for us. That's okay. We should still be able to wear down quite a bit of his board with this Zed. He has to block both of them unless he wants him to flip.
They follow the wrong master.
This isn't part of the training.
Okay. So we should be getting a much better Shunpo next turn. See, just not good. Interesting. I think we want to just go ahead and open. We're pretty much repping lethal here, pretty hard. He's gonna have to have multiple cards to deal with this. He's got multiple cards. Okay. And Will, okay, he's still dead. Good deal.
Damn it.
Did you say damn it? Such a potty mouth. Oh, snap. Okay. So let's see here. Interesting. This is more along the lines of a Zed that I'd be looking for. I like this Katarina too, but I have the 2 Shunpos. I really don't want more decisive maneuvers. You kind of see in that last game how awkward it is having Shunpo in multiples. We really just want one. But here, I think I'm okay with taking the Zed back now. It has a little bit more top end that we need. Green-Glade Duo is great 2-drop. Zed plays extremely well in this deck. I think we can take this Vision is all in all pretty weak. We don't have any of the discard cards to play this for free, and we would like to have more crowd favorites. You can kind of see from that game, and essentially every game in this run, how good crowd favorite can be. We don't have much trouble at all getting a lot of board width, but I think I'm just going to take the Zed Duo set here. Okay, let's see if we can take advantage of this control deck. Looking for 1-drops. Okay, get rid of him. I think we can get rid of Brothers Bond. We're really looking to play 6 mana of units in the first 3 turns, and I kind of want to ensure that we get there. Zed gets us there. It is awkward being on the even attack token. We have been able to take advantage of the odds to a couple of these games, but it's okay. We'll make the best of it.
No one's the wiser.
Here we're going to have the choice of 2 1s or the single 2. This is reasonably close. I think there's a lot of 2 3s that he can play since he's in Demacia. So I'm just going to open with the Drummer, even though this represents 2 less damage. If he plays like a Succession or something here, I still want to be able to attack into it with the Drummer. See how that works, boys. So we'll make this trade. That's okay. We should be able to start doing our Brothers Bond Zed tricks on the attack on turn 4. Okay. What do we think here? We do. Let's go ahead and play Zed. Well, actually, I think I want to play Zed next turn. So I want him to be like Mystic Shotting this stuff. So let's play 2 mana worth of 1-drops. We can keep Draven's Biggest Fan back. We can play Zed next turn, and then see how our Brothers Bond will pair out. But if he's going to Mystic Shot, I want him Mystic Shotting or Get Exciting on these guys and not necessarily on our Zed. Sure. Okay, so do we want to go all in? I don't think we do. I want to play Draven's Biggest Fan, and then I want to draw Draven and give Draven the Jeweled Protector. So we are potentially missing out on an additional 6 damage with this, but I still feel like there's a lot of the time where he has a Mystic Shot or a Get Excited or something there, and we're just blown out if that's his play. But this still curves out nicely. Oh, beam. Okay. Okay. We can Biggest Fan into Draven. Then this will take all of our mana next turn. But on the turn that we play Draven, we'll be able to Brothers Bond some more things.
A Demacian soldier is worth 10 foes. Mages can't hide from me.
Okay, so do we need to get in before he has access to 4 Demacia? That's awkward. Oh, I was worried about this as the what's it called? The Detain Maker. That's not Detain Maker. So if he 4 Demacia is here, we're okay with this. It's like we're even just killing
Ready.
if he can block down here.
I protect my own.
3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're looking at 10 like that. Okay. Good deal. I think we just have to go for it here, but it feels pretty safe in that he, if he had a Mystic Shot or something, he would have played it by that point. Okay. Interesting. Do we want to get rid of this Elixir of Wrath? Because I would be pretty happy with an additional crowd favorite. But it plays so well in our deck with just all of these cheap cards. But these three brothers bonds have been really carrying the weight of our early game combat tricks. As you can see there, we're barely closing out these games with like one card in our hand. And so I would like to just have a big beefy dude that is going to take 2 or 3 cards to deal with. So I think I'm okay with this actually. Things happening. There we go. Shoes lace. I don't get it. Let's see how it's... Oh, turn to their yes. Okay, same deal. We need to find a 1-drop here. I'm tempted to keep 1 hopeful. But this is pretty bad if we don't draw a Noxus 1. But I mean, we have 8, 10 of them. And we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4 draws at it. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to do the math, but that does feel pretty close to being able to just hit a 1 a large percentage of the time. I don't know. When one of you nerds that knows how to math can figure that out, but it seems like it ought to be like like 70% or that we're going to hit hit one of these 1s. So this can suck if he like Omen Hawks us or something. Then we can't attack because we really want to get this guy boosted.
You'll soon understand my methods.
But that is what it is. That's
Show you how it's done.
the extreme power of Legion Rearguard. Legion Rearguard can still make that aggressive attack there, still boost our Trifarian Hopeful. You're a good friend, Legion Rearguard. You've treated me well throughout the vanilla Runeterra. Sun Seeds, absolutely. Okay, so same kind of deal that we had before here. Now I'm kind of tempted to just run out all 3 of these 1s. Like he's certainly going to trade with Saboteur. He's going to do that anyways. Whatever card he plays is going to, clearly trade with any of our units. But the only weird thing is that he seems okay with, giving. He either doesn't have a 2-drop, doesn't have a 1-drop, or he's okay with just giving up on, like this damage race. And it strikes me as a really odd Sown Seeds. Like, why wouldn't he just play that next turn? He clearly just drew this because it doesn't have a bonus. So that's interesting.
Won't get past me.
He's going to get a value block. If he wants to value block with this, he's going to get absolutely nugged here.
You'll never see it coming.
This isn't part of the training.
Oh, it's on.
Okay.
Damn it.
Think Think it fast? Cute.
Sure.
Check out these
More than fine with just taking this damage and then opening on him next turn. This would be a great place to draw like a brother spawned. Ooh, sure.
Underestimate. I dare you.
I have the best job.
Pick on someone your own speed.
Okay. I'd love to add the Zed here, but how much do we worry about him getting a unit? Like, if say he plays like 4/4, then say we attack with this, gets blocked here, he puts 4/4 in front of Draven. This say blocks here. We're only looking at doing. That's getting. But also, if we spinning axe, it's going to be to win the game. But this guy should be able to close out the game next turn.
You hoping they'll die of boredom?
Okay, I've convinced myself.
In the darkness.
Are you supposed to be here?
At least give us a blocker behind as well for this thing. I don't think there's any world where he outraces us. I think he has to block with these units this turn, but this will at least give us a guy behind as well.
Don't let the fluffy tails fool you.
Let's get in with all of our 3 attack guys.
And punch!
You call that sneaky?
Want to see these moves up close?
So the card that would be a problem here is the thing that gives barrier and lifesteal, which would be pretty good here onto our Zed. We can beat Will of Ionia. We have this whirling axe, or spinning axe, I guess this one is. Okay. So what does that get him to? 3? Okay. That's gonna have to be okay.
Now who's got the upper?
That's pretty reasonable. I mean, if we just don't play anything this turn, then we'll draw a card next turn. We can double Spinning Axe Draven to guarantee that he flips and gets Overwhelm on his flip. And then we also have the or we can play this in Overwhelm as well. What is that? 7 plus 5? What's 7 plus 5? we have to block this thing. Let's block with Sparring Student.
Focus.
Carve a path.
Oh, I was not. Oh, I think I messed that up. I just talked about how we wanted to flip Draven, then I went ahead and played this thing. That's okay. Whirling Axe will close this out. He can Will of Ionia through this, but otherwise, this should be pretty good. Okay. Yeah, Reckoner. I see you there. You were going to get your work done. Okay. Let's see. We can't pick up Decisive Maneuvers. We still have these 2 Shunpos. We can trade Draven's Biggest Fan for Sparring Student. That's a slight upgrade. But I think I want to pick up this Combat Trick instead. These are kind of awkward. I would rather just be having Elixir of Wrath than these. But where does that leave us? It leaves 5, 8, 10, 11? 11, so that leaves us at 10 1-drops. If we'd taken 3 Zeds, I'd probably be much more inclined to just take the Sparring Student. I think that's an upgrade enough. I don't really like losing my 1-drops, so let's just upgrade our 1s because this guy's pretty weak. 3 Brothers Bond, 1 Twin Disciplines, 1 Might. Okay. That's kind of close. I could go either way on that. It's just so important for us to hit that curve that I talk about all the time, that early game curve. I don't really like kind of siphoning away our early units. I think we're at like a pretty good mix of cards at this point. Okay, there's the curve. We're on the evens again, so this crowd favorite should be okay. Braum, Vladimir, Draven, that's a fucking weird set of champions. So he started in like Draven, he's in Battle Scar's Scrapheap, and then so it's probably like Draven, Braum, and then he picked up Vladimir's along the way. So those units are going to be pretty beefy. Okay, we'll just trade the one. I was thinking if we wanted to trade this crowd favorite and just look for something a little cheaper and better.
I have my orders.
See if we just get shut down by Omen Hawk. You usually don't pass before you play it. And this guy represents the most damage we can do here. If it trades with any of his cards, it's fine. Sure. No, hang on to him. We still want to get our width going here. Getting in that 5 chunk of damage would be pretty good, but I don't want him just getting value blocks at this early stage of the game. Oh, he just takes it. I'm intrigued. Did he have like a brutal steal and decide he didn't want to use it or something? That's strange to me. Sure. So what are we gonna do next turn? I think we're gonna do this thing again, where we play Zed and then have Brothers Bond. We're not necessarily going to use the Brothers Bond, but I wanna have that option. And then we'll be fine to flood out with this crowd favorites with a following attack.
I am the blade in the darkness.
Sure.
Let's move.
So I want to hang on to this guy. He's still going to boost this crowd favorite. I'm not quite willing to get that damage in to trade it with Omen Hawk.
Stand behind Braum.
Let's see. I feel like he's going to have a frostbite. I still think he has one. I think he wanted to frostbite this earlier and just didn't do it.
An auspicious season.
That's awkward. That's fine. Let's bank this 2 spell mana so we still have it. We'll just be Brothers Bonding on our next attack. So the question comes, do we want to just drop Draven? Because we can play Rearguard, Biggest Fan, Draven next turn. We have to Biggest Fan now if we want to do that. And then we'll have the fully built up crowd favorite on our next turn's attack token. So that's fine. We're still going to get to bank that 1 spell mana to get our Brothers Bond going. It doesn't matter at this point, I guess, but...
It's Draven time.
I got one of those too, friend.
How about a game of catch? Time for talk. Have you met my shield?
I'm intrigued. We're just never blocking here. He's not winning the race with that stuff. But let's see how that goes. If he has to spend a frostbite now or something, that's completely fine. It can be awkward if he has like another transfusion, but at least transfusion isn't enough to kill Draven. Cool.
Reporting in.
That's like the absolute nut we can get with combat tricks. Okay, so I mean, we do have to still worry about things this game, like the big one being Avalanche. But I think we can still beat Avalanche between this monster crowd favorite and our Draven.
The people are my strength.
Where'd you get your title? They do refunds?
What you got for us, friend?
I'd never keep my
Okay.
guests waiting.
Gutsy and strength.
Let's boogie.
In position. Boom.
This should be pretty tough to stop. He doesn't have Harsh Winds mana anymore. Zero, right? You just gave up on it? Okay. Alright. Let's get to that final battle, boys. So let's see. Definitely want to keep our one Reckoner. I don't want Spirit's Refuge, we've been over that before. And I still want to keep this Shield Breaker. I think we're at kind of like the proper amount of top end. We don't have like the perfect top end. There are some units we would rather have than these other units, but it's okay. They all do kind of the same amount of stuff. Darius is interesting. Okay, so to skip the easy one, we're gonna keep our Twin Disciplines. This is a card we want to move up on, not move down, especially for Trifarian, since we're already kind of stacked at 3s. I'm good with... these are all tough. The Legion Drummer is not like a premier 2-drop in this deck, but we only have 4, and so I really don't want to lose my 2-drops and shift my curve up anymore. This Draven for Darius is kind of interesting, because Draven just does not play particularly well in this deck. We don't have any combos with him. He's really just a efficiently costed 3-drop. Darius is so good at closing out the games in this kind of deck. But we don't really need that effect that Darius brings. We get kind of the same thing out of Kato and the Reckoner. So I don't think I really want to change like the cost composition of my deck. I think that's extremely good. I think I just want to try and like pick up upgrades on cards. So I think I'm cool with passing on all of these. Okay, don't want you. This is a definite upgrade here, getting rid of this Greenglade Elder for the Calling Strike. Elder is just trash in our deck. Okay, this is our opportunity to get rid of a Shunpo. I think we're going to have to be okay with that. I don't really want these Draven's biggest fans, but I really don't want 2 Shunpos. So I think that's okay. Look at that. Draven works perfect with Draven's biggest fan. In case you guys weren't aware. Okay, well, I'm okay with not making these trades. Calling Strike is still very good. I don't want the Spirit's Refuge. I'd be okay with crowd favorites if it was like replacing, say, Yasari or Shield Breaker, but I don't want to get rid of any of these rear guards. Okay, interesting. I think I'm going to pick up this duo. I really just want the additional 2-drop in our deck. That's fine. I want to keep the 1 Shunpo, that's fine. This Hatchling does play pretty well in our deck, but I think the Reckoner just kind of guarantees wins. So I'm okay with that. Let's pick up this duo, though. This guy is still pretty good, but I think this duo is just kind of exactly like the cheap guy we're looking for. We're really just wanting to be like Rearguard Greenglade Duo Zed. I think that's okay. Don't want Sun Seeds. That's our only might, so we're cool with that. This is a fine trade here with an additional Greenglade Duo. It's just like, the best aggressive 1-drop, the best aggressive 2-drop, the best aggressive 3-drop in Zed. So I think that's okay. Alrighty. Let's see if we can tackle down this 7-winner. Found us that perfect opponent. Here comes Trindamir Heimerdinger for our 1-drop deck. Nope, Scrapheap. Okay. I'd assume he's probably going to be pretty aggressive as well. We're on the odds this game though, so let's get rid of extensives. I think we're okay with keeping Sparring Student to just kind of guarantee we have a second 1-drop. We're guaranteed to have a 3 in Draven. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. I want to lead with the biggest fan. There's a real good chance that he plays a real 1-drop here, and I'd like to just trade him with it. And it's 1 less damage than getting the Saboteur online, but being in a Scrapheap plus Darius deck, I have to assume that he's going to try to be ultra aggressive. I'm really happy to trade, biggest fan for Legion Grenadier type things. Who do we want to follow with? We can double Sparring Student and then play duo Saboteur next turn. I think I'm okay with this.
How'd you do that?
These will be 3/3s when they attack. This will be a 3 attack when he goes in. But this is the
You gotta rock with your name on it.
the definite sad thing we'll see here, in that our duos are going to fall off in quality really fast.
These moves.
Okay,
The Yordle here's
our Sparring Students, I guess. Oh, buddy. Buddy, you about to get boomed. Okay. That is not the unit he was looking for there. Oh, and a Zed? Oh boy. Oh boy, this is going to be a big open next turn.
I am the blade in the darkness.
Are you supposed to be here?
Coming in hot!
Okay. Attacking, as I say, he at least has to attack with this, but I'm fine with trading both of these here. It makes our open just that much better.
You're in for it.
There's no combat tricks that actually matter. Okay, then we should just kill him with this open attack.
Done yet.
I can't think of any cards that make this not work.
They won't suffer long.
Can you do 3 of them? Yeah. Got him. There you go. Get that Zed flip for the final animation. 7-win takedown. Easy. That was an easy run. Okay. I mean, that's what I talk about a lot when is this thing gonna come up? Yeah, there we go. Like with like Nox and Might, and why Nox and Might's so good. This is extremely close to what a lot of our Nox and Might Darius decks will look like, but we're just not in Darius this time. As you can kind of see there, the power in it. Really looking for a big number of 1-drops. The important one being Legion Rearguard. The next one behind him being Legion Saboteur. But as you could see, you can still fill in with Sparring Student, Draven's biggest fan. Your 2s. I think we might have pulled off the thing I always say happens, where we get a 5-attack Trifarian Hopeful, and then just win the game with it. But I think some of these matches were close enough here. But if we're looking for 10 to 12 1-drops, mainly being Saboteurs and Rearguards, then we're probably going to be looking. I think our 2-drop count was a little bit low. I think we're going to want like 6 or 7 2-drops between in this deck and Greenglade Duo. Trifarian Hopeful is a big one. Legion Drummer is kind of the filler. We are actually looking for what's he called? The 5/1 Challenger Can't Block, but we couldn't quite find them. And here with this deck, Zed clearly played better with the things that we were doing, since we had both Sparring Students and Greenglade Duos. But it isn't ultra important between Zed and Draven. Zed was clearly better in this deck than Draven was, but I mean, if we were in, say, Scrapheap instead of in Ionia, then this Draven would start to play out a little better. But as we could see with how this run went, is your 3-drop slot becomes not nearly as important. You're typically looking for a lot of the 5/4 Trifarians, but since we had the 2 3-cost champions, it did not really matter. So then beyond that, you can see how well Brothers Bond played out. We usually want 5 or 6 combat tricks in here. We did have an Elixir of Wrath that we got rid of at one point. These Brothers Bonds played extremely well, and then you most certainly want one of your combat tricks to be Might. We didn't even draw Might this run, but you can see some of those combats where this would be pretty important. Just, we've got our opponent down to 6, they let 1 unit through, they block something with an Omen Hawk, and then we Might over the Omen Hawk and win the game. So it's always important to have 1 Might. You don't want 1 in your deck, or more than, like 2's fine, but you definitely don't want 0. 2 or 3 is definitely better than 0. You have to have a Might in your deck. And then down here, the rest of the top end just kind of it doesn't matter. You do certainly want 1 Savage Reckoner, and then these crowd favorites are, in this style of deck, the crowd favorite is a unit that we're kind of looking for. But if we're filling in this top end with Trifarian Shieldbreakers and Yasaris, we had Kato. We didn't even draw him. We didn't get to show off Kato because he just never showed up. But the top end doesn't matter a whole lot. If you're in Darius, you can kind of sprinkle in Dariuses to make up for not having top end, or if you started to have too much, then you could just choose to not take Darius. And then as far as Shunpo goes, it doesn't matter if it's Shunpo or strategic maneuvers or the thing that stuns all your opponent's 4 or less attack units. You want one of these kind of expensive spells to close out the game. I usually just want 1, 2 is okay, and then 3 is way too many. But all in all, I thought this came together pretty well. That was a pretty easy run. Hope you guys learned something there. Now that we're wrapping up the season, hope you had some fun here with me. I had a good time with this one. It's always nice to just steamroll straight to 7, and I felt pretty good. It was a nice one to jump back into since we haven't played any games for a few days. But there you have it. Thank you for being here. This is Free to Play Bust.